Lesson 8 is our very short lesson on supplier management, and it contains 3 objectives. First, we'll understand the objectives of supplier management, and we'll also learn about the Supplier and Contracts Database, or the SCD. And lastly, we'll just review the activities taken on by the person in the supplier management role. The main objectives of supplier management is, first of all, to obtain value for our money from our suppliers and our contracts. Also, the supplier management process manages suppliers and the services that they provide to us. The supplier manager will also assist the service level manager in negotiating, agreeing to, and managing underpinning contracts, and also making sure that the numbers in our underpinning contracts are aligned to the targets in our service level agreements. The supplier management process also makes sure that we create and maintain a supplier policy and maintains a supplier and contract database called an SCD, which stores supplier reports and supplier-related information. For the exam, try to remember the objectives of supplier management. You don't have to memorize these word for word, but you do need to understand the general gist of supplier management, which simply is making sure that we're obtaining good value for our money from our suppliers, so we're not spending $80,000 on an ashtray, and that the supplier manager also maintains an SCD, a supplier and contract database. Like all other processes, the supplier management process also has a process owner. And the process owner of supplier management is responsible for those DEMI duties. And again, the DEMI duties are D, documenting the supplier management process, E, educating everyone on how to use the process and ensuring that it's being followed, M is monitor and measure the process for progress, effectiveness, efficiency, and cost. And I in DEMI is for continually improving the process. In addition, your supplier manager, or the person filling this role, will ensure that we're getting good value for our money from our suppliers. Are we spending $80,000 for a single ashtray? Bad supplier management. Also, your supplier manager will assist the service level manager in developing and reviewing service level agreements, underpinning contracts, and operational level agreements. Once a year, if not more often, your supplier manager will review all the underpinning contracts we have in place between our company and external vendors. One of the things we're going to make sure is that our external vendors are still adhering to our supplier policy. For example, we may have a supplier policy that states, we will not do business with vendors who use sweatshop labor. And the first day that you sign an agreement with an external vendor, they may comply with this portion of your supplier policy. But 2 years into your relationship, that external vendor may change their internal business processes, and now maybe they do use sweatshop labor. So it's up to the supplier manager to ping each vendor, typically once a year, just to make sure that they are still aligned with our internal supplier policy. All of this supplier-related information and supplier-related reports are stored in a database called the SCD, or the Supplier and Contract Database. The person in your supplier manager role will also maintain processes for dealing with things like contractual disputes, expected end of a contract, or early end or termination of a contract, or in case we need to transfer a service. Lastly, your supplier manager will also eyeball any changes to the infrastructure to see if they're going to impact how we work with our external suppliers, the supporting services they provide, and any of the language in our contracts. And this role slide wraps up our very short lesson on supplier management, and it also wraps up the content of the service design chapter of this video mentor. Let's move on to lesson 9, which contains many review questions based on the service design material.